Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on this beautiful April 9th, 10th day in Charlottetown. Our beautiful island in our beautiful chamber. Life is beautiful, isn't it? Historic building. Yes, it is. So welcome to the Strategic Priorities Communications and Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee for Wednesday, April 10th. Just like to call to order, but before I do that, I'd like to welcome in Chief McConnell and Chief Mamie and Rory Chason, our communications expert, who are with us today, and Councillor Tweel, who is joining us as well. And so I'd like to do a call to order, and our Deputy Mayor, who's joining us from the land down under as well. So thank you for tuning in as well, Deputy. So in terms of declarations of conflict of interest, seeing none. So there is a request for the agenda change, and the request is to move item 6D up to 6A. A would become B, B would become C, and C would become D. Are people okay with that?
Chair, reports A, B are just practical committee room. Rory's here. Code of conduct training update. Who's doing that? Dan.
Danny.
Which shouldn't, and notice of motion, Councillor. It shouldn't take that long.
Well, I have another commitment.
Yeah, I do too, but so do these gentlemen.
I'd much prefer to go.
I'd like to leave the agenda as is.
No,
Well, I do. I'm on the committee.
Can we change C and D then? Without me? Puts it that much.
Okay. I'll agree to that. A, B, D, C. Yeah.
So D becomes
C.
C?
C becomes D. Yeah.
Well, I guess, should I backtrack a minute? Should we vote on the first part, or do we vote on the first part, or how does that work?
Do you want to vote on this agenda or the revised agenda?
Well, the initial request, I guess, was to move Councillor Tweel up to A.
Yeah. But we're committee members at large, so he's moving to go A, B, D, C.
Okay.
I'm seconding it.
Okay, all right.
Question?
So we'll go with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. In terms of new business, does that get added now or after, if there's anything to be on the new business side? 7. Can I bring up a couple of things then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Now?
we have to, so do I add them now?
Is it a new business, like in terms of something we discussed before? Or
Well, no, it's kind of lingering questions, I think, is really what it is. I guess I'm kind of looking for some direction, really. It's not really an extensive discussion, I don't think. Part of it would stem from last night. It would be Councillor Bernard's request to revisit the job description would be one item. And the other item is about new business itself. What do we use it for? How does it get used? And because I think we've run into some situations where new business has kind of been a bit of we've tried to bring in new business under new business, but we can't bring in new business under new business because of this sort of thing. So I guess I'm just want to get it on under new business to discuss how we deal with new business. So those are kind of the 2 points that I wanted to have added. Danny, did you have something to say?
Yeah, Chair, my suggestion on the new business question would be to hold off until our CAO is here to have a discussion, and maybe that would be a good subject to add to the agenda for our next meeting. And no opinion on the job description question, but His Worship may have.
I just wanted to say that new business proposes an issue that is new to this meeting. Now, I think we've already made a rule that if you propose something that's new, it's notice of motion or to give notice to bring it up at the next meeting so staff can get information. Is that my understanding? That's my understanding.
Yeah, see, okay.
It may be something not discussed before or something that was defeated at a past meeting.
So we
So-
have new business on the agenda, but he can't bring up new business. He has to say we have to wait another month to talk about it? Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and I guess that's really, so here we are. We're discussing, we don't even know what new business is. Like, and there seems to be some misunderstanding as to how we use new business or what we use new business for. I mean, we're sitting in here right now. we're
So
having
the
new business.
CAO, I think she's always been up the position, her position always has been very clear. If you bring something to council, there should be a report. Under new business, there's no report from staff. So how can you bring something up new with nothing, with no corresponding arguments for or against, and discuss it? That's why I think she made the caveat or made it clear that if you want to bring something up, this is where you bring it up,
Okay.
and then you allow.
Here, how about this then? I'll make 2 notices of motion at the end of this meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. Good with that, Councillor McKinnon?
If that's what we have to do, well, that's what we
Deputy?
have to do.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but I think we do need to get some clarity around this for later.
Yep. All right, so moving on, we'll go to, business arising from the minutes? Approval of minutes, excuse me, thank you, Councillor McKinnon.
I'll
Approval of minutes?
approve.
Okay, moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by his worship. Any business arising from the minutes?
None?
Nope. Deputy?
All good, thank you.
All good. All right, so our first discussion item will be the Parkdale Committee Room Report, and I'd call on Rory Chason to come and, from our IT department, and walk us through that.
Okay, so this is for the upgrades to the Parkdale room so that we can stream committee meetings from that room instead of having all the committee meetings in the council chamber. Details are laid out in there, but the important thing is that the budget was $90,000. We only received one proposal, and that price point was $58,480 plus tax. This proposal meets all the technical requirements and received a good technical score from our technical committee. If anyone has any questions about it, I can follow up.
What's the start time on that, Rory, or when, I know it has to, tenders are in, council approve it, but how long will it take?
I don't have a solid timeline, but it's not, it wouldn't be a 6-month period. It would be relatively quick, 1 to 2 months after approval.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just on page 5 of our digital copy. So I did ask you before, Rory, about the makeup of the room. So will we have mics like this on the 4 tables surrounding, in the Parkdale room?
So for this arrangement, it would just be room mics, so the mics would always be active. It's not intended to be quite as formal as the council chamber arrangement. So mics are active at all times, and speakers are in the room, so you can hear everything as well.
So there will be mics, because I thought you were going to use mics in and around, but now we're going with mics that will be on the table.
No, so there wouldn't be mics on the tables. It would be mics around the room. So
Oh.
just, I can't recall off the top of my head. I'd have to refer to the proposal, but I believe it might be mics hanging from the ceilings, or it might be mics somewhere else in the room. But it's not intended to be the formal, everyone gets their own individual mic.
So there's no ability to mute?
Not your own mic.
All
Yeah,
voices will be picked up?
Exactly, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can go in camera if you so choose, but it picks up every sound of other boardrooms that I'm in, picks up every little whisper and everything, but you would have to hit a button at the main console, right, to mute everybody to go in camera.
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Oh, so I guess the key will be to keep quiet, unless you're allowed to speak.
No
Just-
more sidebar conversations, your worship.
I'm up there by myself.
Never happens. That's right,
No,
Councillor Twill,
just,
never happens.
I just want to get to the acoustic treatment to reduce reverberations. Is that paneling that we're going to put in the room?
Yeah, that's correct. So it would be cloth panels, we'll say. They get them to match the pattern, the color of the room. And they would hang, an inch away from the wall or an inch away from the ceiling. And we have some mock-ups. I can grab those if you want to see roughly what it looks like, but it's just a 3D render for now, so.
Question, I just want
Sure, go ahead.
clarification. So, Mr. Chair, this has been talked about for the last several years, finally coming to fruition, which is great. And it, again, promotes the whole concept of openness, transparency, which I know we're all in favor of. And I like the other options here, screen sharing options for remote in-person presentations. So it's no problem to bring in Google Meet or Skype or Zoom. So that's going to add to the usefulness of the room. And I think that, for the money that we budgeted and what we're getting it for, thanks a lot, Rory.
Yeah, Rory, can you just outline or maybe explain a little bit further what the meeting management technology side looks like? How does that, or what are we getting from that, or what benefit does that come with us?
Sure.
Or what will that do?
Yeah, so it's similar to what we have in this room in the back corner. So that allows us to do things like switch which computer screen is being shown out to the YouTube, out to the screen that's in the room. It's multiple inputs, multiple outputs, so we have to manage all of that to make it functional, we'll say. So that's the purpose of that one piece of technology.
Okay.
It also allows you to do things like when we go into a closed session and mute all the audio.
Okay. Could we conceivably have a meeting in here and a meeting over there at the same time?
Conceivably, yes. The issue there is which platforms are you streaming to? So when we stream to YouTube, we only use a single key. We could do multiple streams
Okay.
at the same time, but it gets confusing to more to the citizen than a technology issue.
Right. Okay. Deputy, did you have any questions?
I don't think so, Chair. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's nice to see this moving forward.
Okay. So all our committee meetings will be held in the Parkdale room once that's installed?
You can do either or. Yeah, we can do
Okay.
either or, yeah.
Okay.
But it's also a great platform when we want to open our meetings to other individuals through Google Teams or Zoom. Like the function down in the Sherwood room works excellent, and I think we'll see the same up here with a bigger crowd. Correct?
All right. So can I have a motion then to approve this, moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by his worship? Any discussion on the motion? No? All good? Anybody or so, those in favor, raise your hand. Deputy?
In favor.
Okey-doke. So carried, motion carried, and so we'll move that on to council for approval. Next item is going to be the Code of Conduct training update. Danny, if you want to take that over.
Thank you, Chair. So just an update in terms of the mandatory code of conduct training required under the Municipal Government Act Code of Conduct regulations. Pleased to report that all 100% of members of council have completed the training, so we're in compliance with the regulation, which is important because if we failed to do that, any one member of council could really are deemed to be unable to function as a member of council. So it's a key piece of governance and compliance with the Act, and well done to all members of council for having completed that. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, Danny, do we have to, or does that have to be redone once per term, annually? Is there any requirement for us to redo that to update our code of conduct skills, if you will?
Good question, Chair. So it's required within 6 months of being elected or re-elected. So it wouldn't have to be done again until the next general
Next
election,
election.
or if there was a by-election, someone come in new, they would be required to do it.
Okay, elected or re-elected. Okay,
Mr. Chair, appreciate the fact that the Municipal Affairs put this out. But Danny, are there other parts in the Act that if members of council do not abide, that they would not be, their stipend or their remuneration would be held up or you wouldn't be paid? Is this the only part in the Act that obligates elected officials to comply, and if they don't comply, then there are penalties?
Through the chair to your worship, yes, I think this is the only provision that would basically prevent you from being acting as a member of council. If there was a code of conduct issue and there were sanctions that council rendered on a member of council, and those that could entail fines or sanctions that might preclude them from attending meetings or removing them from a committee, what have you. But no, this I think is the only provision that requires you to be to complete it or be unable to function as a councillor.
So just to follow up, Mr. Chair, so what part of the Act is that under? Like that wasn't put on us in the last term from 2018 to 2022. So this must be an amendment to the Act or the regulations?
Through the chair to your worship, yes, it was part of the regulation, the code of conduct regulations that come into effect, I believe, October 22.
Okay. Yeah, I just asked, Mr. Chair, because as an elected official, we're no different than an elected official at the provincial or federal level. We're elected by the same voter, and to be told that if you don't do this, if you don't check off this box, we can hold up your stipend, or you could be told to leave council. Like, I don't know if that's best practices in other provinces, but I found that very much the big hand of Big Brother saying, do it or you'll be penalized.
I think generally, through the chair to your worship, I think many organizations are moving toward a mandatory training for code of conduct and governance training. Corporations, nonprofits, and it is seen as a mechanism to train and educate those who participate in governance, and it's seen as a positive step towards good governance, and mostly is embraced by those who participate in it as a way to refine their skills and develop better knowledge in terms of how to interact with council and with others in the community. Yeah, I can say from my experience with municipal affairs that by and large, or far and away, the conduct issue and the relationships that are managed or mismanaged at the council level are far and away the source of the most conflict in local government, in PEI, and across Canada for sure. So it really was an attempt to bring best practices that were evident in other jurisdictions, including a mandatory requirement, and I can't tell you which those were, but there was quite a bit of research done in terms of what the best practices were, and also the training was formulated based on some really good examples of what folks felt was informative and good source of training. So,
do the, I assume provincial MLAs undergo the same training and program?
It wouldn't be the same program,
Similar,
Chair, but
similar.
I know that most recently the new members, MLAs, participated in legislative school, and they did undergo
Legislative school.
I think it was I could be wrong on this, but it was a 3-day, participation in legislative procedure and committee work, and I suspect the code of conduct was included there.
Okay. Anything else? Councillor McKinnon? Deputy? Deputy, do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. Thank you, Chair. I think that's good.
All right. So thanks for that, Danny, and good to see that we've got that all completed. So we're going to move to item 6D, which is the notice of motion from Councillor Tweel with regards to illegal drug paraphernalia distribution, community outreach center, community consultation, and independent investigation into illegal drug use at the outreach center. So maybe we'll call upon Chief McConnell here in case we need his expertise to help us facilitate this discussion. And Councillor Tweel is here to speak to it. And I guess we, fundamentally at the core of this, I guess we're trying to figure out, is there a path forward to accomplishing what Councillor Tweel is looking to do? And if there is a path forward, what does that path look like I think is probably the biggest question that we have right now in terms of understanding how we will do it. So maybe I'd call on you, Councillor Tweel, to...
Mr. Chair, just a point of
Sure.
order.
Yep.
Point of order is in reference to our terms of references for the strategic priorities, communications, and intergovernmental cooperation. Number one is to represent the city as liaison with federal, provincial, municipalities, and First Nations on strategic priorities. Two, to encourage and facilitate intermunicipal cooperation pertaining to shared services, including the integration of water, wastewater management system, and infrastructure renewal and development. These three issues, drug paraphernalia distribution, independent investigation into illegal drug use at the outreach center, and the community outreach center community consultation. I don't think they fall within our municipality, fall within the responsibilities of the municipalities. Drug paraphernalia and distribution, I think, is federal, provincial, federal, and probably with some connection to municipal enforcement. Independent investigation into illegal drug use at the outreach center. Are we talking about a municipal inquiry, like a provincial inquiry, a royal commission, a municipal commission? And the community outreach center, community consultation. Well, the community outreach center is a facility owned by the province and operated by the province. So we have to be careful about what we ask for, because the province may come back, you know what? You want to be part of it? As was said many times, you want to cut the ribbons and cut the checks from the municipality. So I think, I just wanted to bring that up. We have two terms of references here that talk about liaison. It doesn't talk about that the city represent the city in conflicting with federal, provincial municipalities and First Nations and strategic priorities. So let's be careful where we go with this, because, we have core services, police, right? Fire, public works, water, wastewater, parks and recreation, tourism, economic development, festival events. When you get into health, mental health, drug addiction, we're getting into a field that we do not have. I don't think we have the fiscal capacity to, or the jurisdictional responsibility. I just wanted to bring that up as a point of order.
And I think that, thank you for that, Your Worship. I think that fundamentally speaks to what I said at the start, that is there a path forward? I think what we, in respect to process, Councillor Tweel has brought forth a request to come to our committee. And I just see it as our role to explore, is there a path forward? And if there is a path forward, what does that look like? So I think that's kind of where that's where, for me anyway, that's kind of where it lies. I know that Councillor Tweel made the notice of motion, I think it was January 22nd meeting, maybe, I may have the dates wrong. But I think it was important for to have a little more of a full, all we have is a notice of motion. We don't really have a supporting rationale for it, a real solid understanding as to why we would or would not pursue it. And that's why we wanted to bring Councillor Tweel in, and that's why we wanted to bring the chief in to see where can we go with this. So I think that's really, for me, if that's where I'm looking for clarification in terms of understanding is this doable? Should it be under our purview, or does it fall somewhere else? So I think through the discussion here today, hopefully we can gain some clarity, because when we first discussed this, we really didn't know. But we didn't really have people around here. We didn't have the full sort of understanding from Councillor Tweel as to what he was looking for. We didn't have the police perspective in terms of what is doable and what's not doable too. So I think in the interest of process, I think we should allow Councillor Tweel to go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'm not denying the
Yep.
input. I'm just going back to our terms of references. It's about to represent the city as liaison, okay? Not conflicting, but to liaison with federal, provincial, municipalities, and First Nations on strategic priorities. Like, when you talk about illegal drug paraphernalia distribution, is that a committee, a standing committee responsibility, or is that enforcement? But when you talk about an independent investigation into illegal drug use at the outreach center, which is a provincial facility, well, why should it stop at 241 Houston Street? Should follow itself out to the new site off Riverside Drive. And the community outreach center, community consultation, that was to bring in members of the provincial government to address this issue. That's not liaison. That's saying, hey, get down here at Birchwood Junior High School and give us your reasons for allowing this to go ahead. That's all I'm saying. So,
Sure.
Information, as you always know, knowledge is power.
So maybe we'll start with Councillor Tweel, and we'll kind of hear a little bit from more in his perspective as to the reasons for the request, and so maybe Councillor Tweel, I'll turn it over to you, if that's okay.
All right, thank you, Chairman Beck. Just to follow up what the mayor said, well, you know, I've witnessed the city of Charlottetown getting involved in provincial issues and bringing in regulations. For example, STRs, that was always regulated by the province. City of Charlottetown got involved. Cosmetic spraying was always regulated by the provincial government. City got involved, brought in a bylaw to deal with that as well. So, you know, I find that pretty ironic that we can pick and choose the issues that we want to get involved with and the ones we don't want to get involved with. I bring these issues to the table because it affects the constituency, the taxpayers of the capital city. So I'll start with item 1. The distribution of illegal drug paraphernalia within the city of Charlottetown. It's no secret that we have needles, crack pipes all over the city of Charlottetown. Public spaces, playgrounds, sports fields, our historic heritage squares, private property like people's backyards, their front yards, businesses, our small businesses have had to deal with this on a daily basis. It's still going on. I've talked to some of the business community, and it's a terrifying experience that residents that are paying taxes in this city that deserve not only to have a quality life but have consistent protection. I don't believe that's too much to ask. And we, as the governance at the local level, have an obligation to protect and to put in place a structure in terms of reference to make sure that here are the rules of the game. This is no different than any other situation that we find ourselves in. I believe when it comes to drug paraphernalia and harm reduction and issues of that magnitude. There's many ways and many different philosophical approaches, many different philosophical options, strategies that are being practiced and executed across Canada, parts of the United States. I have, in the past several months, Chair Beck sent copies of articles from the national media to all members of City Council to bring the Council's attention the discussions that are taking place across Canada so that we become more aware of how municipalities are dealing with these particular issues. My approach, Councillor Beck, is number one, I think I said it at the council meeting when we discussed these three notices of motions. I think it'd be advantageous for City Council to invite the Chief Medical Officer in to discuss, distribution of drug paraphernalia, the allowance by the province and the feds, to discuss what are the contemporary strategies to deal with addictions, particularly when it comes to drug usage. I believe that I think we could have a good discussion with our Chief Medical Officer, discuss treatment by medical practitioners that have the credentials and qualifications to give these particular people treatment, the necessary treatment, the latest, so that there's a process to that treatment. And then eventually when they go through a program that is extensive and comprehensive, at the end of the day, it'll help rehabilitate them and integrate them back into the community so that they're making contributions as good citizens. I believe that is an approach that we as a municipality, as a capital city, can be leaders in. And I think we should embrace that. And I think we begin with making that request to bring in the Chief Medical Officer to have that discussion. I think we'll all become much better educated. We'll become much better informed. I would say, Councillor Beck, that when we do have that meeting with the Chief Medical Officer, we have one agenda item on that particular night or evening, one agenda item, so there's not 10 agenda items on there where we're rushing. We want to have a real good discussion with the Chief Medical Officer. That's the first approach.
Chair, can I, Chief, and all due respect, Councillor Twill, I think we're getting off track here.
No, I'm not getting off track. This is
illegal drug paraphernalia.
Yeah, I know, but this is all part of it. This is all part of it.
Well,
This is
I
all,
think-
no, this is all.
I
this-
believe that you're getting off track.
I'm not getting off track. This is all part of it. Let me finish my presentation.
I'll allow the conversation to continue.
Yeah, so this is part of the approach. Secondly, after that discussion, I think we should look at a proposed bylaw, drafting a bylaw, which would let the folks know that that's distributing drug paraphernalia. Here are the rules. Here are the ground rules as to how you would distribute drug paraphernalia, or if it's even allowed. I mean, we need to put in place the structure and the terms of references so that the community can have an expectation as to what's happening because of, needles and crack pipes that are all over the city's landscape. I believe, Chair, that we need to do a jurisdictional scan to see what's happening in other parts of Canada as to how they're dealing with these situations, what has been successful, what hasn't been unsuccessful. And maybe at the end of the day, we can come up with a strategy.
Sorry, Councillor Twill, successful in terms of what?
Pardon me?
Successful in terms of what?
In terms of how they're dealing with issues like, say, harm reduction and what happens in these particular communities where it takes place, and there is drug distribution. I mean, I've read a number of articles where these centers are open. There's more crime. Drug dealers are setting up shop, in close proximity to these facilities, and it's caused havoc, and it's a very dangerous environment for the community and the affected residents. So those are three pillars to my request for this whole idea of drug paraphernalia and the current status, what's happening now, as to what methods that we can explore to make our community much more safer, and there's consistency throughout the different neighborhoods and communities throughout the city of Charlottetown. So that would be a start, Councillor Beck.
Mr. Chair, if I just follow up just what the councillor said from Ward 4. I vividly recall the September 5th meeting at Birchwood, and the chief clearly explaining that we have a federal directive on prosecution for drugs, that if it's not a major crime, we're not taking it. So that restricts our police force and how they can enforce that particular part of the law. The other thing too, Councillor Tweedle, you talked about STRs. Now, I think if you look at the STR issue, we were the lead on it. We didn't want to wait for the province, because the STRs was an issue here in Charlottetown. Same as cosmetic pesticides, because I led that when I was on council back in 2003. As for the chief public health officer, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, but she was in this chamber in December of 2022. You guys were just newly elected. She made a presentation about harm reduction, right? She made a presentation that we need a safe injection site. And I remember asking her, does the Medical Society of Prince Edward Island support safe injection site? And she said unequivocally, yes. What followed after that? What followed after that meeting was the meetings that took place in Ward 2 regarding the establishment or setting up a safe injection site at 31 or 33 Belmont Street. And we know what happened there, because the residents said no. So we had her here, and we can bring her back. I don't know what we're going to talk about, because she'll say, I told you we needed a safe injection site, and we didn't do anything because the province withdrew their application, and to this point, there's still no safe injection site. Now, am I advocating for it? No, that's discussion that the province has to make or bring to our attention if they want to set it up where it's not allowed within a zone, a permissible use in a zoning development bylaw, a section of that governs our land use. So then, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, I think we had Chief Cooper in here with her son, Native Council Prince Edward Island, to talk about her role as distributing paraphernalia because of the situation on the street. And I think most of council was here. I was here. You were here. I think Councillor McKinnon, you were here. We heard her presentation. So we're getting lots of information. And again, Councillor Tweedle, I appreciate your passion for this and the response that's coming from the constituents in Ward 4 and the whole city. But we have to work with our provincial partners, because it's a health issue. Health and education are constitutional responsibilities that were in the BNA, British North American Act, and that are in the Constitutional Act of 1981. That's their responsibility, not ours. And we've been dealing with them. I have meeting notes and exchanges between the province and the city on how we will work and roll out this outreach center so that we're treating those that need it. Mental health, drug addiction, alcohol abuse, misuse of alcohol. Like, I was down yesterday to do a tour of the new facility with a first-year medical student from MUN, Emma Campbell. And the change in what's happening down there compared to the previous site. So lessons were learned. And I believe that the staff are very appreciative of the police presence, that it's very, very obvious, that it's very current, that they know that there is an effect. Now, can it be better? Yes, it can be better. Will it get better? I'm sure it will. But we have to work with the province. And Mr. Chair, I go back to terms of reference. To represent the city as liaison with federal, provincial, municipalities, and First Nations on strategic priorities. If drug addiction, mental health, abuse of alcohol are issues in our community, including the unhoused and people living rough, then we should be working with our federal partners. And I think we've been doing a good job with that work, and I give credit to the chief of police because he's been attending these joint municipal provincial meetings to make sure that the police presence is there, and if they need feedback, that is our provincial reps and city reps, we get first-hand information. So, Mr. Chair, I don't know where we're going to go with it, but I always say, be careful what you ask for.
Chief, do you have anything to add to what, well, let's deal with this particular one here, and did you have anything to add to what Councillor Tweel was asking for?
Well, I can certainly, Chair, provide some perspective on drug paraphernalia. Drug paraphernalia currently is legal to possess in Canada. When they legalized marijuana, they legalized the importation and possession of drug paraphernalia also. And so the mayor also touched on the directive from federal prosecutions, and the combination of those things, have certainly played a part in our ability to police this, as some would hope that we could. But the reality is that the federal initiative, the federal approach, and through the province and to our municipality is from a harm reduction lens that we work in alignment to try to treat simple possession and through a preventative and treatment focus, as opposed to criminalizing those, but focus enforcement efforts on those involved in organized crime and making a living off the sale of drugs.
I didn't quite catch it to start there, Chief. You said that possession of drug paraphernalia is legal or illegal?
It is legal in Canada.
So this bylaw request here is to prevent something that is legal and making it illegal, effectively.
Essentially, I think if you look at the bylaws that have been, some have been implemented and some are attempting to be implemented, they're focused not as a blanket prohibition of drug paraphernalia, but in certain parts of the city, like recreation facilities, certain distance from sports fields or schools or those types of things. And I think there's mixed success and challenges on those also. But yes, generally it is legal in Canada.
Okay. And the distribution of the drug paraphernalia by the Native Council and Peers Alliance and all that is all supported by Public Health Agency of Canada, the Chief Public Health Officer here in Prince Edward Island.
That is correct. Generally, harm reduction approach and distribution of safe exchange needles and things like that are endorsed, and I think generally working to under the lens of that harm reduction strategy.
So, Councillor McKinnon, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just a question. You kind of like alluded to what you just asked there, but To the chair, Chief, like you said, possession is legal in Canada, and the distribution is supported by health and it's endorsed by that. But is it legal for a place to distribute the paraphernalia? Is there any laws or bylaws in place to prohibit the distribution of the drug paraphernalia?
Chair, through to Councilor McKinnon, I'm not aware of any.
So I guess to the chair, to Councillor Twill, is that what the notice of motion is looking for? Are we looking for a bylaw for the city of Charlottetown to prevent the distribution?
I think what I'm looking for is a bylaw that would put in place a structure where drug paraphernalia can be distributed, where it can't be distributed. Like I said, I outlined some examples. Playgrounds, sports fields, our historic squares, in people's backyards, front yards, businesses. I mean, local businesses that was threatening to close because they were doing the drugs right inside that local business. I talked to the manager. Okay? I mean, in fact, that manager's no longer working that business because after 3 years, that's it. I can't take anymore. Just can't do it. And we have to put in place a mechanism, whether it's a bylaw or something tangible, so we can send a signal out to the community that we're trying to take some action. We're trying to put in place some preventative measures that would stop this. And bylaw, I mean, what it would look like. I mean, I would ask all members of City Council to contribute to such a bylaw, so that at least there can be some predictability, at least there can be some consistency, and there can be an expectation out there in the community as to people what they can expect and what they don't have to expect. I don't want needles on the school grounds. I don't want needles in our sports fields. When I hear from sports organizations, coaches and managers, how they have to walk the venue, the sports field, up and down the field to make sure there's no needles or get the needles picked up, I mean, that's a major concern. That's a major concern. And we should be concerned. And we should be putting in place some type of preventative measures to deal with that. I think that's being proactive. I really do. Status quo, to my mind, this status quo right now that we're operating under, I don't care if it's federal, provincial, international, municipal, call it whatever way you want. It's not working, and it's not safe, and in some cases, it's dangerous. It is extremely dangerous.
Mr. Chair.
I don't know, Councillor McKinnon, if that answers your question. I tried my best.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Your Worship,
Could
go
I
ahead.
just say something about this? When is mental health and drug addiction predictable? When is it? I grew up in a family where there was an issue of misuse of substance. It was. Was it predictable to me when it was happening? No. Like, if you never lived the experience, then how can you say it's predictable? I just find that you're trying to look at a pathway where we can make things happen and it'll be neatly packaged. Well, I've gone through it, and you know what? I've discovered that empathy and understanding is very important in dealing with that kind of an issue in a home. And it's not just myself, there were 9 kids. So when you talk about predictability, I don't think you understand some of the confines that people lived in when they were dealing with that kind of abuse in a home. In a home. And you know what? Am I a better person for it? I don't know. But I know I've learned that you have to look at controls and you have to understand that that there are boundaries. But to give up on people because They have mental health issues. They have drug addiction issues, misuse of alcohol. That's not a family I grew up in. That's not a community I grew up in. The discussions we're having about this, Chief, and I gave you credit. You've been pushing the envelope on it, which I think people are talking about in a proactive, positive way. But I think that as a council, as elected officials, like, we have to understand problems are happening throughout this country, throughout North America, relating to opiates that are legal, prescribed by doctors, and, you talk about the illegal drugs, heroin and mescaline and LSD, the balance is not there. It's the opiates. And this opiate issue started back when I was in council in 2001 to 2006, when there was an epidemic of opiate crisis in Sydney. 19 people died of overdose of opiates. So, let's try to be, empathetic as an elected body. And I think, Mr. Chair, if I could ask, let's see what other best practices are out there for what's being recommended by the council from Ward 4. Let's see if there are bylaws in Lethbridge, Calgary, wherever he's talking about. Let's see them. And if there are there, we can discuss them at this committee or council as a whole.
Well, that was one of his requests, was to see what's happening in other areas. I guess really, at the end of the day, we have to make a decision on this. Do we want to work towards the creation of a potential bylaw, or do we want to, it's going to be, if this is the ultimate goal, or to look at the whole thing? I mean, the request here is stop the distribution of illegal drug paraphernalia, which is a little different than when Councillor Tweel is asking for, to discuss approaches and strategies, to propose, potentially look at a bylaw that provides consistency and predictability and understanding as to what's going on, and to do jurisdictional scan. That's different than what is here. This here is a simple request to stop the distribution. So there's a disconnect here between what this report is asking and what Councillor Tweel is looking for. What Councillor Tweel is looking for further exploration, and to see what the possibilities are with regards to the potential formulation of a bylaw, and whether it fits, and if there is a process that has to be established within that bylaw. And I agree with you, Your Worship, that addiction and mental health is unpredictable, and that's, I agree with you 100%. But I guess right now, I think what the report in front of us is different than what Councillor Tweel is asking for. And it sounds to me like we're looking to further explore to see whether there is a potential of a bylaw development. Am I correct, Councillor Tweel? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
Can I interrupt 1 second, just before we get to that? No,
Sure.
Chair, as mentioned, I do have to go to another work commitment. So I'm asking, my item agenda cannot be put off to next meeting.
Sure.
Is
It's
that-
your
is that an
item.
issue? Yeah, okay. No, it's great discussion and what we're going on with the distribution, but it does seem like little bit of a different request here than what is on paper. But I think there's a lot more discussion to be held on this. It's not something that's going to be solved here today, but good luck with it. I wish I could stay, but I can't.
Okay.
Chairman Beck?
Sure, go ahead, Councillor Tweel.
Yes, my approach is comprehensive, and this was a starting point because of what's been happening in the community. And when I talk about predictability and consistency, I'm trying to reflect and represent the concerns that I've heard from the constituency consistently. And I've been hearing about it for the last, 3 or 4 years, and it's been very intense. So that's why I'm bringing this forward, and that's what's motivating me, because of what's been happening in the community. And it's in the heart of the city, I mentioned the different venues, the different types of drugs that are happening, fentanyl, crystal meth, all these different drugs. So I would like to see this as a starting point, taking a comprehensive approach to further explore what a bylaw would look like. I believe, knowing what we know now, again, I'll reiterate my request to bring in the chief medical officer to have that discussion, to see, treatment, best possible treatment by medical practitioners,
Okay.
doctors, and people that are in the field, offer these people the best service possible for rehabilitation and to help integrate them back into the community.
Okay.
I believe that's the approach. That's what I've been reading in all those articles that I've sent to all members of council over the last number of months. And to my mind, that's being proactive and educating ourselves as to what direction that we should be going in. So that exhausts that.
All right, so then can I ask you, Councillor Twill, are you okay leaving this as a starting point for now, that we can move on to your next report or your next
Yes,
item?
yes, sir, I am.
So we'll leave this as a starting point with a possibility of further exploration.
Yeah.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, did you have any comments that you wanted to make?
Well, I was just following up a little bit of what His Worship said, when it comes to, and I think it was Councillor McKinnon as well, we're looking at creating a bylaw which would go against the federal directive, and I think maybe if we're doing some more research, we could pay attention to what's happening in BC. I know they're now using crack in the hospitals, so I'm seeing like there needs to be some, this needs to come from the federal to the provincial jurisdiction, but just my thoughts on, further, research if we're going to be going down this road.
Yeah, and I think that would be part of it, in terms of understanding that. Okay, moving on to the next one, Councillor Twill, you had a request for a community meeting on the Outreach Centre.
That request was made when the Outreach Center was in Ward 4. I tried hard to encourage the province because I did hear, the Premier repeatedly in the legislature talk about collaboration. Well, personally, I didn't see it. I really didn't see it, and the community didn't see it. And that's why I request the Premier and the affected cabinet ministers attend a meeting at Birchwood Junior High School so that the residents, the constituents, have the opportunity to ask them the questions and be able to express their concerns. I thought it was a reasonable approach because I kept hearing about collaboration. Well, you know what? If you're going to sing it, then bring it. And I didn't see it. The community didn't see it. So nonetheless, Chair Beck, since the Outreach Center's moved, I'll leave that to the council now representing that district where the Outreach Center is. So I'll remove that request now and move on to item 3.
Just on that, Mr. Chair, on
Yep.
item number 2. So let me get this straight now. The Provincial Community Outreach Wellness Center that was on 241 Houston Street was a permissible use under the zoning institutional. It was purchased by the provincial government. The only operations that we were involved in was police answering calls, fire answering calls when police or EMS were not available. And if we're asking the province to meet with the residents, whether it's in Ward 2, Ward 4, Ward 8, wouldn't that come from the provincial reps? You have 6 MLAs. It's the MLA from the area, whether it's Ward 4 or Ward 2 or Ward, if it's District 12 or it's District 14, those are the opposition MLAs. That's where the request should be coming from. And I know I answered a call about what are they going to do with that property at 241? I said to the person who phoned me, phone the MLA. It's provincial property, it's not our property. Well, but it's in the city. Yeah, QEH is in the city too, and so is a lot of other provincial bodies. But if it's a permissible use, it's allowed to happen. So I think the call should be made out to the MLAs for the area, whether they're in District 12 or District 14. Get them to yell from the rooftop.
I'll respond, Councillor Beck.
Go ahead.
Once again, Tip O'Neill, Speaker, when Ronald Reagan was president, said all politics is local. And when your constituents are telling you something, they don't differentiate as to what's provincial and what's municipal and what's federal. When your constituents are constantly coming to you for leadership, for guidance, and for support, and to be their voice, doesn't matter whether it's municipal or provincial. It doesn't matter. So when the request was made, it was made on behalf of the constituency. I can only speak for myself. I'm not speaking for the MLA, the Member of Parliament, the Chancellor at the university. I'm speaking as the elected municipal representative for Ward 4. So that's what I attempted to do. And it was a reasonable request. Because I kept hearing about collaboration. Okay? Nice word. I learned a new word, collaboration. Well, I didn't see it, and neither did the constituency. So, Councillor Beck, I rest my case, and we'll pull that for now. I'll move on to item 3.
No, just one second, Mr. Chair.
Well, I think, but just hold on,
Yeah,
Your
I
Worship.
know,
I
yeah.
think what's happened here is this request came into us. Councillor Tweel has said he's removing the request.
Right.
I think we can move on from the discussion.
Right.
Because he's removing the request. He said it came originally
Right.
as a representation of
Right.
the concerns from his constituency. He's left it to the current council. He's saying if the current councillor wishes to follow up, I think we can end the discussion because there's nothing further to discuss.
No,
really on
but
this.
but when a member of a council clouds it, that the rest of council is not representing the constituents of
I didn't say
Charlottetown. Constituents of Charlottetown,
I
I'm
didn't say
saying
that.
that's not right.
No,
What
I
I'm
didn't
saying,
say that.
we're always representing the electoral and the electorate. So don't cloud it by saying, I'm just speaking on behalf of my constituents. We all do, whether you're municipal, provincial, or federal. I'm just saying, this is a provincial issue because it falls under health. It doesn't fall under parks, recreation, water, and wastewater. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the third one, which is the investigation into illegal drug use at the Outreach Center.
Thank you, Chair Beck. Terms of reference for the investigation will include the following. For the independent, impartial, comprehensive, and extensive outside investigation to investigate who made the decision, who was directly responsible, condoned, and supported the illegal drug usage, the sale of drugs, and on and near the premises of the Outreach Center when it was located on Euston Street. Terms of reference for the investigation would include the following. What government departments, what cabinet ministers, government agencies, NGOs were directly and indirectly responsible, involved in this decision? 2, was the city of Charlottetown directly or indirectly involved with the decision to allow the proliferation of trafficking and drug usage on or near the premise of the Outreach Center? We're talking criminal code violations. This is illegal drug usage that was allowed to happen on that site. It was discussed in the floor of the legislature. The minister said he wasn't involved with the decision but reversed the policy. So therefore, I'd like to know who was involved with the decision, and I believe that we should have an independent investigation because there was drug usage taking place on the premises of that facility, and we have a responsibility. We have a police department, we have laws that are in effect, and that, to my mind, violated the criminal code. And I believe we need to do an independent investigation, Chairman Beck. Council would pick that outside agency that would conduct the investigation. That's the third notice of motion that I submitted to Council back in January, and here it is at this committee level.
Thoughts, Your Worship? I'm opening it for discussion.
I'm just waiting to hear from the chief.
Sure.
Well, certainly, Chair, you know, as a police service, we're acutely aware of the issues that were around the outreach center and our enforcement. We have not received any complaints from the public regarding anybody from the outreach center selling drugs. We know that there was issues and maybe some complicity in that, but complicity is not illegal. And I certainly, I won't be calling for this investigation. I certainly do not see our police service doing this investigation. And I'll defer to committee and council to make a decision on that. But as a police chief, it was a challenging situation. And I think there was some complicity on usage. But it was a very challenging and fluid situation. But I do not see the public interest in this.
Anything you want to comment on?
Mr. Chair, again, Community Outreach Center, that was a provincial facility that was located at 241 Houston Street. I think the chief has already told us that it's not within your scope, or if it is in your scope, you're saying that you weren't getting calls that illegal drugs were being sold, distributed, so there was no response. I'm just trying to clarify what you said.
Yeah, certainly, Your Worship. I think the allegation is that the sale was from authorized or endorsed or condoned by people operating the outreach center, which we had not received complaints about. Whether there was drugs sold around the vicinity of the outreach center, well, that's a different story, and our criminal operations section have launched numerous investigations into activity and laid charges. But that's separate and apart from the allegation of the actual operation of the outreach center condoning or selling or being involved with the selling of drugs.
Chairman Beck?
Go ahead, Councillor Twill.
Minister said in the House the policy was reversed. So the question is, who allowed drug usage on that site? That's an illegal activity that took place in that site. When that facility opened, there was no talk about drugs or drug usage, drug paraphernalia. None of that was in the equation. None of that was discussed. And then all of a sudden we end up with a glorified drug injection center where drug was rampant right up until, it was moved down to Park Street. I mean, they were on Eustis Street, up and down Eustis Street. It was nothing but a shooting gallery. And to allow those activities to take place, I believe there should be an investigation as to who allowed this to happen. And I believe it should be independent. So, Councillor Beck, I bring that forward for the committee's for the committee's response, and I can't be any more straightforward than what I've just stated.
Okay, thank you for that,
Thank you.
Councillor Twill. Deputy, I'd like to bring you into the discussion. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
So if the chief is saying that he would not be pursuing an investigation, and Councillor Twill wants a third-party investigation, who would pay for that?
I'm assuming it would be us, because we would be the ones who would be initiating it and getting an external investigator, much like you would do with any other, investigation, because I guess when they're kind of tied with that, one of the things that I see here is that the request is to conduct an independent, impartial, comprehensive outside investigation. But then it goes on to say that the investigation team will be selected, recruited, and approved by City Council. So we're going to be recruiting our own investigators, like, to come and to investigate ourselves. Like, I don't know how that can be independent if we're doing the recruitment and we're saying, okay, yeah, well, you guys come on in and investigate us. So I don't know how this, to be honest with you, I see this as being, I don't know if it's something that I'm in favor of. The other thing is, I guess, is through a lot of this, the province is brought in, and again, to reiterate what His Worship has said, this is a provincial matter. The Charlottetown Outreach Centre is a provincial jurisdiction that falls within the city boundaries. They've brought in Carleen Donnelly, who has come in and provided a lot of change, direction, guidance, at the elbow support for this move, which is now down at Park Street, which looks different than what it did at the Outreach Center. So I'm not really supportive of us taking on an investigation into something where there has already been some intermediate steps undertaken. I think there was an admission on various parties that what went on at Euston Street, although well-intended, fell short, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I think the goal now is to try and move forward, learn from where we went wrong, or where the province went wrong, or collectively we went wrong, and with the Outreach Center, and now to try to provide a better service delivery model that we have down at Park Street. So I'm really not interested in investing money on the city's part, city taxpayers, to go in and to provide this investigation. And I just don't see a lot of merit in it, but that's just my opinion. And I think that there are some other advancements that have been made in the interim that will hopefully serve the residents of all the city better.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I think what the police chief is saying, Brad McConnell, is that we want to hire a third party to come in and investigate police services. Because police services are responsible for administering and enforcing the law. And this is saying that it wasn't happening. Something was happening inside that our police services didn't know. And not only that, Mr. Chair, who do we call in? The Mounties? To investigate it? Or do we call in another police department from HRM? Like, Councillor Tweel, I know your passion and your commitment to municipal politics stretches back 30 years, but when we cross a line that is a provincial responsibility within the city of Charlottetown, we've provided police services, fire services, public works services, we've done everything. And the centre has evolved from Old Shamus Store, went down to Birchwood, down to Smith Lodge, and then ended up in 241. Like, it bounced around. Now we're out in Riverside Drive. Like, this, if the province wants to do an investigation, let them do an investigation. But if we're challenging and questioning our police services, that to me doesn't warrant any kind of a vote. That just says we move on. Like, if the province has an issue with what the Charlottetown Police Services were doing in terms of administering the law at that centre, let them investigate and let them discuss it in the Legislative Assembly. But I don't want to question the integrity and the professionalism of our city Charlottetown Police Force. Like I've always said, they're the best force east, small police department or small city police department east of Montreal. They do the best they can. Like, guys, we have to focus on what we have in front of us. We have a mental health crisis, we have a drug addiction crisis, we have misuse of alcohol, and underlying all those issues is the homeless, the unhoused, and those people living rough. And we have to be part of the solution, and I think we are. We're collaborating with the province to make the outreach or the wellness center work on Riverside Drive. We're working with other jurisdictions. Now, when I say other jurisdictions, when I go to our AMC, which is Atlantic Mayors Congress, I'm asking what's going on with their outreach centers. There's nothing compared to what we're going through, because I think we're just a small community that is very concerned and very open and very robust about what we think about an issue. And I appreciate it, and I'll always accept that input and feedback. But I think when we start investigating our Charlottetown Police Services, we're crossing, Mr. Chair, I think, a thin line.
All right. Deputy, did you have anything else further you wanted to add?
I don't have anything further to add, no, thank you.
Councillor Twill, did you want to wrap up with anything?
Yeah, I just want you to know that I appreciate the time that the committee has given me here today, but I'll reiterate, I strongly believe there should be an independent investigation into the illegal drug usage at the outreach center. We as a city should hold, whether it's the province or the feds or anyone, to a higher standard, more so than just the average citizen. That did not happen in this case. And my request is reasonable, it's responsible, it's open, it's transparent, and it demonstrates and clearly illustrates to the constituency that we're doing everything in our power to make sure there is accountability and there is responsibility. That motivated me to bring this notice of motion forward. I'm only one person as a member of City Council. I try my best, and that's why I brought these three particular motions forward, because I thought it was the responsible thing to do.
Thank you for that, Councillor Twill. And I would echo what his worship said, that we do know that you are passionate about this, and if you weren't, you wouldn't have brought it forth. So I think there's a recognition amongst everyone here of your concern and of your willingness to bring it forward, and I think we have to appreciate that. I guess, does this come down to we have to make a motion here to whether we want to pursue this? So I would ask if there's anyone who would like to move to conduct the independent investigation as outlined by Councillor Twill here. Is there a
Yep,
a
I
mover
move
of
that
that?
we do not have an independent investigation into illegal drug use at the outreach center because, well, I need a seconder.
Well, so that's your motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the motion is that we do not proceed with an independent impartial investigation?
Yeah.
Deputy, would you be willing to second that?
I will, but I have a question first, is that we don't even have a recommendation from staff, so how do we put a resolution on the floor without a staff recommendation? Is this some different procedure because it's a notice of motion?
That's a good procedural question, I guess, and I guess we would be recommending to pursue that, is what we would be recommending, that we work towards it. Danny, do you have something that you want to chime in there?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think the only comment I would have is one of the challenges that this report presents is that the municipality doesn't really have capacity or expertise in this realm. So we don't have a staff member that would be an expert to make a recommendation on this. So I think that's one of the challenges with having staff make a recommendation is that it's, to some extent, is out of our wheelhouse. So that's one of the challenges that is presented, and the reason that the report was on the councillor's recommendation as opposed to staff's recommendation. So uncharted territory to some extent, but I do agree that probably council will look to the committee's recommendation in terms of whether this, proceeds, and if so, how. So I would encourage you to do what you can to come to a recommendation on the councillor's request.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
So I think we should. I think we should be saying, should we be,
Yeah.
should we proceed or not? And
Yeah,
what
Mr. Chair,
the,
he made a recommendation. Chief made a recommendation. He said that, no, we shouldn't have an independent.
yeah, no, but that's just his,
Well, that's a
he's
recommend-
just expressing his opinion, but that would have to come in terms of
A report?
well, no, a motion from us. This falls under our committee. So I think what I've been seeing is council wants to have a recommendation from the committees.
Yeah.
So the request came in from Councillor Tweel to conduct this impartial investigation. We've had a discussion around here, and your motion and the deputies seconding it is that we really shouldn't be pursuing this any further. So I think we should be coming forth with a recommendation from this committee that says we don't think, or we do or do not think that this matter should be pursued any further.
Well, what was stated last night was about a referral or deferral of a resolution. Today, we have to send something up to council to say yay or nay. So it
Right.
has to be a recommendation.
Exactly.
And my understanding from the chief's recommendation, or what he suggested, or what he's saying, this is not something we have to do because we're investigating CPS, Charlottetown Police Services, and I don't want to do that.
Right, so
Yeah.
you've made the
Yeah.
motion, the deputy has seconded
Yeah.
it, and now
Oh.
we're making a recommendation. The deputy asked the question, is there a staff report or anything like that? Danny answered that we really don't have anyone that's kind of falling into that, so we are in a bit of uncharted waters. But I think at the end of the day, council should be having a recommendation from us. Do we want to pursue this further, or do we not? And I think that's what the motion
No.
is. No. So the motion is, so deputy, do you want to second that motion?
Yes, I'll second that motion. And just to quote Danny, this isn't in our wheelhouse either. So, but I will second it and support his worship that we shouldn't be pursuing this investigation.
Danny, did you have something else you wish to add there?
Yes, just discussing with the chief. Certainly, there are other avenues in terms of oversight and accountability, one being the Police Act, which is a provincial act, and the other is the Ombudsperson's Act, the Ombudsman's Act, which would, perhaps have a role in terms of a look over the procedural fairness and jurisdiction, those types of things. So those may be other things that could be explored.
So is that another avenue that Councillor Tweel could explore? Is that what you're saying?
No, we can as a committee.
Or we can as a group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you
Either
know
or.
what, Mr. Chair, let's send it to the ombudsperson. Let them look over what we've discussed and the allegations that were listed here, and hear what their recommendation is. Is that right, Chief? Is that what you're recommending?
Yes, Worship. I
Yeah.
think, I think generally if there's concerns about policing, that for provincial scope, that we do have oversights for the Police Act. But if it's government operations, then the ombudsman's role is to look into those to see if, I think there's mechanisms in place. I just don't think this is the right approach. I think it would have to be referred to one of those mechanisms.
I amend my motion to refer this to the ombudsperson, that is independent investigation into illegal drug use at the outreach center. That's what so I want to refer it to the ombudsperson for their input, critique, and so forth.
Chairman Beck?
You know, I need a
Okay,
seconder
so
first.
just so I understand, so we're taking all the information that was presented here, sharing it with the ombudsperson, and the ombudsperson is going to say, this warrants a further investigation, or it does not warrant a further investigation? Like, what are we hoping to accomplish by sending it to the ombudsperson?
My understanding is that the ombudsperson wouldn't have the authority to direct us to do anything, but they would prepare a report and give an opinion as to jurisdiction, appropriate avenues for follow-up, whether there was procedural fairness in terms of the way the issues were handled, that type of thing. So, but we could certainly have a discussion with the ombudsperson and see if they would be prepared to do an investigation and a report on the matter and get back to council.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to refer this matter to the ombudsperson. Deputy, are you willing to second that?
Sure.
Okay. Any discussion on the matter?
Councillor Beck, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part of what the chief said.
I'm not sure, you, Chair, you'll have to remind me of exactly what,
I'm not sure, the chief's last comments, I didn't catch the end of it. I just want to know what he said.
I think it's just about the role of the ombudsman.
And the Police Act, and the Police
And the
Act.
Police Act.
Yeah. And the Police Act is a provincial act.
Is a provincial act and
Right.
Oversees policing operations. If there's a police-related concern regarding the conduct of an officer of a police service, or if it's government operations or something that the government or some sort of entity did, I think the ombudsman can play a part in that. I think it's more, again, non-binding, but making recommendations to council.
Okay. You good with that, Councillor Twill? With that explanation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Obviously, you don't have a vote here today. I can't make any amendments or do anything.
No, I was just
Yeah,
referring to
no,
the
I'm just trying to
explanation.
understand, the rationale. Yeah.
Okay.
And just on the request from the Council from Ward 4, where did it fall under to invite the provincial medical officer, chief medical officer into the, chief public health officer into the council? Is that under illegal drug, independent, or community outreach?
That's under the drug paraphernalia. That'll be one of the three approaches that he
Okay,
was
so
recommending.
We can look at doing that.
So we'll follow up with further, and there were three areas of that.
Yeah.
Jurisdictional scan, inviting the CPHO officer, and possibly looking at what the rules or process are around a potential bylaw if we were to create one.
And looking at best practices.
That'd be part of the jurisdictional scan. Yeah. Okay, so the vote on the moving it to the ombudsperson, all those in favor? Deputy?
In favor.
In favor, okay. All right, thank you, Councillor Twill. for
Councillor
coming
Beck, I want to sincerely thank you and the committee, all senior staff for being here today and giving me that opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
in. Thanks for taking your time to come in. and do
You're
that.
always welcomed. You're always welcome, Councillor. Okay.
So, going back, I want to make a couple of notices of motion. And one is to have a further look at the job description as outlined by Councillor, job description for city councillors, potentially looking at something that would outline expectations, that sort of thing for city councillors. And the second would be the clarification of how we use new business and what new business is used for. So over the course of time, either you and I, Danny, can have some discussions as chair and liaison with the city, but those are two matters that I'd like to see on our next Strategic Priorities Committee meeting. Okay,
Thank you.
motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Moved by His Worship.
Yes.
Seconded by the deputy.
Deputy.
You good,
I'll
deputy?
second it. I'll second it, yep.
Okay,
Take care.
take care. Thank you for coming and thank you
Thank
for
you.
tuning in.
Bye.